welcome back to Sound Up. Mark Goodman is on vacation this week, so it's Alan Light and producer Roger Coletti holding it down. And as promised, we've got some guests joining us. You know these guys. You know the Hanseroth twins, Phil and Tim, from all their work over the years with our dear friend Brandi Carlile. But big news this week, which is a Hanseroth twins album coming out on Friday called Vera, that we are excited about and excited to find out all about. So welcome, you guys. Really good to see you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah,
excited to be here.
So I guess sort of the broad stroke question to ask, but how does it feel on the precipice of putting out music under your name, putting out songs that are your songs for all the shows and all the stages and everything that you've done? What is it like to put yourselves out there in the front like this?
Scary and,
Yes.
and awesome. With Brandi, we have these roles that are so clearly defined. Brandi gets to sing lead. We kind of chase her around while we sing our harmonies. I'm always going to be playing guitar. Phil's always going to be playing bass, and it's like a very well defined, comfortable place. And with what we're doing now, it's kind of the great unknown again. We had a rock band together 30 years ago, and in the 90s in Seattle, like a grunge thing. And it's been so long since we did it. It's just a whole new, a kind of uncharted territory. So it is a little bit scary, but it feels good.
Yeah.
We get to have our own voice back. Not that we don't have our freedoms with Brandi. It's a great, awesome thing we have going on, but it's we're kind of rediscovering our voice again.
So is this material stuff that you've been gathering over the years and just kind of hanging on to, or was there a decision of like, hey, we're going to go make an album and we'll write towards that? There's a set target here. Like, what are we, what are these songs that we're swimming around in?
God, it's funny. It's kind of a little bit of a combination of both, because we're always kind of just writing and we'll kind of stockpile songs, and every few years we make a record with Brandi, and we have a lot of songs to choose from. So a couple of the songs were just songs that were kind of sitting in the junk drawer, because we don't have any plans to make a record with Brandi right off the bat. Here we're taking a kind of a pause for a couple of years, and so there was a couple songs that we drew from that bunch. We knew we wanted to stick with songs that were kind of personal to our story and our life and our truth. And so we had a couple of those songs, and once we got those down and recorded, then we discovered like, oh, we know what kind of record this wants to be. And so from there, we kind of, then we had a little chunk to work off. We started kind of writing in that direction and for the record, but not till we had about 30% of the record done. And then it kind of revealed itself what it wanted to be. And we're like, hey, we could write more songs kind of in this direction. And that's kind of what we ended up being inspired by what was there, and kind of just wrote itself. Yeah.
Well, what was that? What did you hear? What did you pick up on that gave you that roadmap?
I think the first one, I think we would probably agree, the first song that we finished was Remember Me. That kind of said, okay, the record just presented itself as what it wants to be, and we just kind of went from there.
So, sonically, thematically, like what did that unlock?
I think sort of both, but I think that the biggest thing is, I think the biggest thing was that it was just honest and like truthful, and it wasn't like a story about something. It was just, here's a little piece of like what we're feeling, what we're thinking, here's us.
Yeah. And that one came together naturally too, in the sense that when we had the song and we were writing it, and we hopped down in the studio and we just sat right next to each other with no headphones, just a microphone right between us, which is probably an engineer's nightmare. And we're like, just let us get through this song and let's see what it sounds like. And then we got through the song and it was like, oh, well, that sounds like it's done. Sorry, and it was so kind of easy and natural. And, there was none of this like, oh, give me 3 more tracks, or give me, we didn't have to like go through the labors of trying to make it perfect. It kind of just happened on its own. And we're like, oh my God, that was just so easy and natural. Let's just do that 8 more times, you know?
What on here, what surprised you? What went somewhere you didn't anticipate? I mean, there's a couple of more rocked up things that are on here, but what presented itself along the way that you thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. Didn't know we were going to do that.
Yeah.
I think Poor Side of People, when that one kind of came out, it was like, wow, this is like really sort of a different direction. But at that point in the process, it felt like, we needed something like that too. Just something a little bit like a palate cleanser, a little bit of a boost of energy or something,
Yeah. And it has kind of a cool rockabilly punk rock thing that, kind of speaks to our roots. And, with that song, actually, it was kind of going to be a ballad, The Poor Side of People. And we were having a hard time kind of finding what the music should be, because that's a song where all the lyrics were written first. And then one day, I was cruising around somewhere. I had like the satellite radio on in the truck or something, and like Eddie Cochran came on, like an old Eddie Cochran song, and I was like, oh, this is a rock and roll song. We're pissed off about the super rich creating the poor. Let's make this a rock song. Let's make this a punk rock song. So we tried to make it a little bit like an old, 50s rock and roll thing. But what surprised me on this record was Phil walked in one day and he's like, yeah, I want to sing an Erasure song on this record. And I was like, explain. So that really kind of took me by surprise. And I think it fits in like perfectly. But yeah, I was really surprised at that.
What are the writing roles for you guys? Do you write separate? Do you write side by side? Is there a music guy and a lyrics guy? What?
It's kind of all of that.
All?
Yeah. Sometimes I'll have a song that's mostly complete or fully complete. Sometimes he'll have a song. Sometimes we sit down and work on something together. And a lot of times it's just, here's an idea that's almost done, and Tim gets out his butcher knife and freaking chops it up.
What if we make the last verse the first verse? And that's the cool thing about working with your twin brother. That's like, you don't have to worry about anybody's feelings. You don't have to be like, hey, that's a really beautiful song. Would it be okay? You can just be like, okay, that's dumb. We got to do this. That song is not good enough for the record. There's a lot of communication. There's just no communication blocks. We're actually really good communicators. It's probably because of the twin thing. Yeah. Anyway, it's really helps the writing process when you can just be honest with somebody and not have to worry about their feelings. No offense.
None taken.
Well, the twin thing, but also, I mean, as much recording experience as you guys have under your belt, within different circumstances, in different settings, like I am sure that the lessons you've learned to put towards how to launch a project like this are, there's a lot you can draw on.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. It's funny because that you say that, there's like the Tanya Tucker project, the Highwomen, and the stuff we do with Joni Mitchell, and the writing that's happened for other people, like I don't know, just the Zach Brown thing or the Tanya stuff. But there's the sort of like spectrum of musical influence is so large that this is honestly the first time we've made a record since sort of having all that under our belt. It was like very nice to be able to pull from that kind of library.
What do you take from that? I mean, let's leave aside the Brandi work. Not that all of this isn't Brandi work, but from being in the orbit of a Joni Mitchell, of a Tanya Tucker, what do you walk away with and bring back into work from seeing what it is to fly at that kind of altitude?
Man, well, for myself personally, I think at least musically speaking and creatively, like with the Joni stuff, she's so honest with her work. That's sort of one thing that I think gave us permission to kind of just really go there, and less writing and singing, stories about things, and more just sort of like, hey, here's who we are right now and where we've been. And then the Tanya thing, it's just sort of like has made us consider musically like going to different places. The country music thing, I love the country stuff, but like it's not something that like I grew up listening to. It's not something I'm overly familiar with, And so like there's a lot of things that just happen that I kind of go, okay, yeah, we can do that. We can go to this chord. We can like, sure, drop out the first half of the last chorus, just production stuff and sort of
But
Yeah.
Joni's amazing though, because she, when you go over to her house, she has like 20 guitars sitting there, and they're all in different tunings.
Oh wow.
Like she just grabs a guitar and tunes the pegs all down to weird places until she finds a tuning that kind of sounds cool, and then she starts making shapes. And after doing some stuff with Joni over the last couple of years, we got into some alternate tunings. And we got some songs that are in alternate tunings now. So there's things that kind of rub off on you in an indirect way. Like learning all her songs made me say like, oh God, I like this tuning. We could write a song in this tuning. And we ended up doing that. And I had to learn how to play dulcimer because we were taking on the task of doing her album Blue. And so we all learned the album Blue, and somebody was like, well, somebody's got to play the dulcimer. I guess we got to find someone. So I bought these mountain dulcimers, and I finally, after like a month, I've been kind of working on it at my house, trying to figure out like, I was watching YouTube videos of how she moves her hands across the strings because I really wanted it to sound like her. And I worked up the nerve one night to ask her at her house. I was like, hey, so I got a dulcimer, and I'm learning how to play some of the songs on Blue for this event we're doing. And could you give me any advice? Like any tips? And it was so cool because I was thinking she was going to be like, yeah, it's got to be G, C, G. And on the one, and she just goes, tune them all up, cattywampus, and beat it like a bongo. I was like, okay, cool. And I do,
And
It's
I
so
did, and I
true.
did, and I do.
Yeah, and
Oh.
it worked. And it worked great.
I was going to ask, you guys are always, whether it's Joni or Brandi, you're always writing or writing musical lyrics for someone else, for someone else's voice. Did you
Yeah.
have to like step back for a moment and say, or were there times where you're like you get in the habit of writing for someone else's voice and like get into your own head so you can write what was coming out of you guys?
Oh,
I,
eh,
well, writing for Brandy, which I think is the very first thing we always do when we sit down creatively, try to come up with the next cool thing that we can do with that band. It's sort of encouraged to be very honest and very open in the songwriting, and Tim brought up earlier, like sometimes you get so honest that it doesn't work anymore for Brandy to sing it, interpret it. For instance, the song "Broken Homes" on our record, we went down the road of recording that for our last album with Brandy, and in the studio we were just kind of working it up and trying, and Brandy just had the idea of, you know what, like, I don't come from a broken home. It's not like my truth, and it's a great song, and so yeah, it does happen.
yeah. Sometimes you get a little too honest, and it doesn't, and it works for you, but not for someone
Right.
else. And so I think sometimes when we're writing for other people, like writing for Tanya, um, the subject matter can be a little more, I guess, interpretive or
Hmm.
broad. And then for the stuff that we did with our band, this record this time, once we had those couple first songs down, "Remember Me" and "I'll Always Know I Do," I was like, oh man, this has to be about our lives. Let's dig deep. So we kind of it all just accidentally ended up being very personal. And I mean, every bit of it. Maybe not the Erasure song, which was awesome. That's not, but
Or maybe
yeah,
so.
yeah. Oh yeah, maybe so.
You
Yeah,
you mentioned, I was going to ask, maybe it just caught me at the right moment, but "I'll Always Know You Do" um, hit me very hard, that song. Tell me what, you said that was that was one of the ones that sort of laid out a direction for you.
yeah. I just was, I was. That's a song where the lyrics came to me first because we have a friend whose father he has Alzheimer's and has been going through it for years now. And she said this funny story that one day her she was telling us about her dad was in the house, and her mom had just gotten out of the shower and was naked and was walking through the bedroom, and the dad was like, "Who are you?" And she goes, "Well, I'm your wife." And he goes, "Well, I'd say I did pretty good then, didn't I?" Um, but I think it's when people, our grandfather had Alzheimer's when we were growing up. We used to we'd be we'd come home from school, and our dog would be down the street, and our grandpa would be sitting at our front door in his chair that he always sat in with a pile of rocks on the floor, and we'd be like, "Hey, Grandpa, how's it going?" Well, it's going good, but this damn dog keeps trying to get in the house. And we're like, well, that's our dog, Grandpa, every day, you know. And he goes, oh, okay, well, come on in then. And but he didn't know towards the end who anybody was, but he knew he was when he was safe with someone. He knew that someone was his people. He knew that he was loved, and he knew which people were his people, even though he didn't really know who they were. So I just thought, I love the idea of, maybe we're all gonna get old and we might forget things like that, but I think the heart remembers what the mind doesn't.
No, it's a beautiful song. Again, just maybe hit the right moment, but it stood
Yeah.
out for sure. So,
Oh, thank you.
well, I want to ask while we're here. Brandi has explained many times. She writes, very specifically, very detailed in her book about, the performing entity Brandi Carlile is not her.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That is her and you guys, and it is a band, it is a group, that it just happens to have the name Brandi Carlile. And I just, would love to hear you talk about, explain that. Roger, you said you just read a quote in a Variety piece.
Yeah, I think one of you explained the relationship as kind of a triangle, or Brandi explained it as a triangle, where in Brandi Carlile she's on the top, but in this instance,
Yeah.
the triangle kind of
That's
turns. Is that how you guys see it?
absolutely, like with our band with Brandi, that's what Brandi always says. She goes, well, Brandi Carlile, the person, is Brandi Carlile, the person. But Brandi Carlile, the band, is the three of us. And she describes it as a triangle. So she's at the top, and then me and Phil are the bottom corners, the foundation of that. And then on this project, like Brandy's like our biggest champion for what we're doing now, this solo thing. And she looks at it as, instead of a departure, it's almost like an addition onto what the three of us can do. And so she's involved, but she's now at the bottom, supporting us, being at the tops of the triangle. That's the way she put it, and I love that analogy because it's true. Everything we do together. She has if she has a project going on with someone, whether we're visually a part of it or not, we're in the back turning the screws and writing and helping, and we're just we've always been just a team, supportive of each other, and we share our business. We share our publishing, which was, we've always tried to be talked out of that for years. Like, oh God, don't share your publishing, don't do that, and don't share your touring entity together. And it's worked for 25 years now, so I think it's been a great decision.
It's served us, and it's served the songs.
Yeah, and we share
just-
our lives together too.
Right,
We live in,
as was I was going to say, it's more than just, that's not all you share, that it's,
No.
yeah, we have this. We call it the compound as a joke, which is actually a kind of a dark way to describe it. But it is, we have our between the three of us, we have like 100 acres on the in the foothills of Mount Rainier out here outside Seattle, and we all have our separate properties, but they're very near each other. Brandi lives like 1,000 feet away from Phil, and I'm building a house right now about 600 feet away from Phil up the hill. And our cellist lives there. We have our monitor guy. Some people that tour with us live out there. We have property. We're always trying to get some of our friends to move out. That friends from other bands. We have one of our friends from another big rock band here in Seattle has a property out there that is a vacation property, and it's a really cool shared. We have a lot of shared resources there. We have a great couple recording studios. All the kids are close. We each have a couple kids. Brandy's got a couple kids, so it's just an awesome way to live life. When we go out and travel, we got all our kids and tribe there, and we go home, we got all our kids and our tribe there, and it's really cool.
well, it's great if it's work, but that goes on the high risk, high reward list.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
not anybody can pull that off. And I was going to say, I mean, I've been, paying attention to and doing stuff with Brandi for a long, long time now, and watching the transformation, obviously all of the opportunities, possibilities, places that she and you guys have gone. I mean, there's a lot of change. There's a lot of progression in what that career looks like and what that work looks like and what your lives look like. Has it been, is that a thing that's, let's say, tricky to navigate as everybody's kind of place in the world continues to change, how those internal relationships change?
I don't know if it's tricky to navigate. I think that it hasn't changed and is going to stay this certain way. It's always continuously been changing the whole time. And I think the thing that helps us kind of just everybody stay together and like be part of the team is from like we were just talking about from the very beginning. It's been sort of all in, all together, and that's been like a great strength of ours. So I think it's just when everybody's on the same page of just supporting each other and supporting the band and Brandi and the direction of the whole thing. And yeah, it's I wouldn't say tricky. It's you want to make sure you're doing the right thing for everybody.
Sure, but it's I
Yeah.
mean, but that still is reassuring or something to hear, because you are in a really different place than 10 years
Yeah.
ago, 20 years ago, what this looked like.
You know what it
Yeah.
feels like is well, we I mean, you've been in the business a long time too. It's a hard business because it's always changing, and I feel like that as wonderful and awesome and rewarding as it is, we operate at a level of stress that would probably just kill most people with the traveling and the traveling and the adrenaline of playing a show and the coming back home and it dumping out and being away from your loved ones, and you're missing these birthdays, you're missing these weddings, you're missing your funerals, and one thing that's changed in the last 10 years is that the profile of the band has gone up considerably, and there is some pressure with that because it feels like before where we were just in the $5 blackjack tables, cool. We can play 200 shows a year, $5 each hand. And now, we play less shows, but they're really high stakes shows. There's a lot of financial burden of keeping a really big band and crew together. It's really expensive and stressful. If somebody gets sick and you have to cancel a show, it could be really devastating and stressful. So it's kind of like we're at the high rollers tables now, and but we're still grunge kids, and it's stressful. Sometimes it's just a lot, But the thing that we have always through all those changes is just each other. We have our home base, and so yeah, we always just have the support of each other. But yeah, it can be daunting.
So are you guys going out to support this? And if so, what's that going to look like?
Yeah, we are. Is it tomorrow already? I think tomorrow we're embarking on a little promo tour, and where we're going to be doing some Q&A and some short sets, things like that, answering questions and doing some playbacks. We've been opening for ourselves. We opened for the Brandi Carlile band out in London, and Tanglewood earlier this summer, and a few other places. I think as the opportunity to play presents itself, we'll be doing more stuff. Maybe next year, as we can sort of continue our sort of downtime with Brandi, be doing some more stuff. But yeah, and in Seattle, we're gonna wait for the vinyl to come out to do our release party. I'm sure you guys know Easy Street Records, the big record store out there. We love Easy Street. We love Matt Vaughn. We'll be doing something there.
But you got caught up in the vinyl pressing delay that everybody else.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man! It's like you got to plan these things like a year in advance. It's crazy.
Yeah, we didn't even know we were going to be putting out. By the time, if we wanted to have the record, the vinyl on time, we would have had to know we were making a record. But I think the Twin thing is going to be cool for touring. When we go out and we will eventually get out and do some shows. And we were talking about a minute ago how it's all high stakes with the Brandi thing, and that's awesome and it's so rewarding and fun. But the cool thing about the Twin thing is we can go hop in a van and trailer or a bus, and we can kind of just bring 2 guitars and a couple backpacks and really nothing. It's so portable what we're doing now. Even the songs that have a little bit of production on the record, there'll be some piano and bass on some of the songs, but we can just get out there with the 2 of us and maybe a roadie and do it, and there doesn't have to be any pressure involved. We have a sound guy that we really love that we would take with us. He's an amazing
Right.
individual, and he would be probably the only thing we need.
And you can do that knowing that with the super dedicated support and love of the Bramley that is out there, you're not going to show up and play an empty room. So
Oh my God, they're just the best. I mean, not a day goes by we don't think about how lucky we are to have just the best fans in the world.
Yeah, we had just ended up with the best fans. It's so true. They're so supportive. I'm going to plug in my power here.
One more question. I'm an Erasure fan, so why Erasure? Why that song? Explain.
Okay. I've always loved that song. And Erasure, they're one of my favorite bands. I think they're just so, I mean, they're like in my top 3, you know. I think they're totally underrated, and I think their music is so like melodic and beautiful, and they're just such good writers and performers and singers. And you know, it's funny, like we started making the record, and there's so much truth and sort of like heaviness at times that we just thought, man, you know, it would be a nice kind of moment on this record. Let's do an Erasure song, you know, and let's do it. Let's do it in the style of the record, you know, acoustic and a couple harmonies and just you know, so everybody can see it's just an amazing song, no matter what the production.
And I you know, we're such huge Erasure fans too. Like I was telling Phil, if we end up making another record in a couple of years, if we just turn the Twin Project into something that we might just continue doing, that we should do an Erasure song on every record. Because I think that would be awesome.
I would love that.
You know,
Yeah, that's the thread.
If you
yeah,
keep doing it, eventually,
the common thread through it all would be an Erasure cover because they're just such a great band. And
you'll eventually have a whole album of covers for
That's
them.
right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hey, you know what? Record Store Day, Erasure.
That's a Record Store Day
album.
project
I
for
love
sure.
it.
That's a great.
That's a great idea.
Great.
All right.
We haven't. Yeah. Oh, I was going to say we haven't sent that song to them yet. I'm kind of afraid to.
Maybe you guys can send it over for us.
Yeah.
We have ways of doing that.
We do have one.
Yeah.
Right. Phil and Tim Hanseroth, thank you guys so much. It's a pleasure. It's so good to see you. Congrats on getting to the starting line.
Yeah.
The Vera album. And hopefully we'll see you out there soon.
Thank you
Yeah.
guys.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Really nice talking with you.
Yeah.